Hopefully it fixes it a little bit. We'll see. Give it a moment to get back up to speed, in theory. I hope. Hope it smooths it out a little bit. I don't know. The bit rate is very screwy for this, so apologies. Yeah. Okay, I think it evened it out, maybe. Hard to tell. All right, well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Back, sorry.
We have, to give you another.
Yeah, okay. First of all, this was supposed to be the specifics part. And this jackass just overlapped two separate and exclusive cases that have nothing to do with each other. And his biggest argument was that Philadelphia called registered voters and allowed them to vote, and red counties said, fuck off.
Give you another example. We have 17,000 provisional ballots cast in Pittsburgh.
Right. 17,000 provisional ballots. 17,000. Margin is 60 some odd thousand. Provisional. 17,000 provisional. Okay, hit me with your best shot.
Do you know what a provisional ballot is?
Yes. Somebody comes in, there's something wrong with their registration, or they're not registered, or they just moved, but they have proof that they moved, and so they believe that they can properly vote, but they're not showing up on the rolls, or there's something wrong with the rolls, or the machines are down. There's a variant. There's a multitude of reasons why your registration may not have shown, or that it was changed, or somebody messed around with it, or the machines are down, and you get a provisional ballot. And if and when they can prove that ballot valid later, it will then be counted after all the other ballots are cast.
This provisional ballot usually happens this way, and about 15 of the 17,000.
I liked my story better, but we'll see.
Doesn't happen this way. Mm-hmm. You walk in and you say, "I'm here to vote today."
I like this play. Fuck you, Neil Simon. Rudy Giuliani.
Oh, Mr. Giuliani, you already voted. I did?
I did not expect this plot twist. I was right out of the gate. You already voted.
I don't remember voting. Oh, yes, you cast an absentee ballot. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did.
This is how it always happens. Every time I go in, every time I've ever cast a provisional ballot, I'm back and forth. It's like, who's on first every goddamn time. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. 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 No, I didn't. Yes, you did.
So why does that happen 17,000 times in Pittsburgh?
What? 17,000 times people walked in Pittsburgh and went, I'd like to vote. I'm Rudy Giuliani. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Rudy Giuliani is not registered in Philadelphia. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Fine. You already voted, though. I can't let you vote. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Look, just fill out a provisional ballot. We'll put it in the shredder later.
People walked in thinking actually 15,000 to be precise.
We just lost 2,000 votes. Just 2,000, 17, 15, 17,000, 15,000. I mean, honestly. Oh, God. To be specific, ballpark 15.
Why did it happen 15,000 times that people in Pittsburgh walked in to vote and they had already voted?
They didn't. You made that shit up in your head. There were probably 17,000 reasons for those 15,000 voters that will probably be 12,000 by the time you're done talking. why they didn't show up or weren't registered to vote in the area or decided that they wanted to vote and they believed themselves to be already registered to vote and it wasn't showing up, so they cast a provisional ballot. Jesus Christ.
According to the Democrat election machine.
The Democrat election machine, are we talking about the weird people and all that kind of shit, or are we talking about an actual machine?
Did they forget that many people with bad memories in Pittsburgh?
What?
Or is the following correct?
Oh, okay. And now we get to Occam's razor.
That as witnesses will testify.
Oh boy.
They were instructed by the Democrat bosses.
The Democrat bosses.
When they had a ballot in which there was no one registered, just assign it to somebody. Just assign it to Rudy Giuliani.
I think Rudy Giuliani just confessed to voter fraud in Philadelphia.
So when Rudy Giuliani won't show up to vote.
Again, this is just fucking fantasy. Like he's literally created this. This is literally. He's arguing that straw men are voting.
And if he does show up to vote, we'll give him a provisional ballot. That is what we call circumstantial evidence of the fraud.
And the circumstance is, I pulled it out of my ass.
The direct evidence of the fraud of the people who will testify.
That's not direct evidence. That's witness testimony, and it will be taken in the context of who these people are, what they actually saw, their perception of what they actually saw was, and what really went on. And you've had 2 weeks to talk to these people, and has it gotten any clearer?
That in fact that's what happened to them. As well as the 50 to 60 witnesses we have for the way they were treated and not allowed to inspect the ballots.
Can you please at least separate your ridiculous cases so that we can address them on the merits if you're going to deal with quote-unquote specifics today?
They weren't just not allowed to do it. They were pushed. In a few cases, they were assaulted. In all cases, they were put in a corral.
Okay. Were they broken like a bronco? Did they go down to the corral themselves? Tell them I'm coming to the corral, and hell's coming with me. And Rudy Giuliani, he's going to vote again.
So far away, probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room.
Wow. I had no idea there were so many corrals in Philadelphia.
We could do
the next time I want to go to a country and western bar, I'm heading to downtown Philly.
Did you all watch My Cousin Vinny?
Oh, God. In the following analogy, you will see the worst Joe Pesci impersonation you have ever seen in your goddamn life. And secondly, you will see that the case he is making is that his witnesses are old and blind.
You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes.
It's not a law movie.
From Brooklyn, and when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, "How many fingers do I got up?"
It is standard practice when doing Joe Pesci's voice that you get your voice up higher, not lower.
And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away.
Oh, I see. Was that the story?
To see it was only 2. These people were further away than my cousin Vinny was from the witness. They couldn't see a thing.
So these are your witnesses. Your witnesses couldn't see a thing.
Now, I don't know You're going to tell me that 60 people are lying?
Well, I'm going to put these 60 people that you've dug up, of which we've only heard 2 cases, and 2 of them are against another county for not allowing them the same rights that Philadelphia allowed other voters. And they're your people, compared to the fact that every voter in the United States of America signs an affidavit effectively when they register to vote that they are who they say they are and the information therein is correct and true, as is true of every signature on every envelope.
They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury.
Like every voter does?
Which is something no Democrat's ever done.
Huh? No Democrat has ever swore under penalty of perjury? What? What? What?
You don't even ask Biden about this.
About what?
Put him under penalty of perjury. He doesn't even get asked questions about it. He doesn't get asked questions about all the...
He voted in person.
Evidence of the crimes that he committed.
The evidence.
These people are under
The 2 Utes.
penalty of perjury. Their names are on an affidavit. They swear that they weren't allowed to carry out their function as inspectors.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they actually weren't, that they were actually denied. They're swearing that their belief is true. That doesn't mean they're right. That's why it's not evidence. I believed I should have the right because I've watched enough episodes of Quincy to examine the crime scene, Your Honor. And I was denied my right as a medical examiner. I will sign an affidavit to that effect. All that affidavit says is that I believe my own bullshit.
And it's not just a technical thing.
Yeah, it is.
There's a reason they did it. Why would you not allow people to carry out the function they've been allowed to do for 50 years, 60 years?
Because there were so many of them, the room was full. Your own client, or one of these asshole affidavit people, was an hour late. He was supposed to be there before the polls closed. He was more than an hour late. Polls closed at 8:30. He showed up at 9:30. They had already been counting for an hour. They already had poll watchers over everybody's shoulder during the envelope separating process. So they set him in a room with his thumb up his ass in case anybody got diarrhea and had to run home so he could fill in. But they never needed him because everybody who did it had been doing it for years. Fuckstick.
Years. Why wouldn't you allow inspections of those ballots?
You did. They did.
Because you knew you were going to use those ballots to catch Biden up. And you had a big road ahead of you.
Oh, yeah. That's the greatest scheme, you know. Rudy thinks that bank robberies happen by you get a blueprint of the bank, figure out where the safe is, figure out how many guards are going to be there, and then you just freeball the rest. I mean, really, we've seen pictures, right? Whatever, just leave it here? Okay, I'll see it. And what do we do after? I don't know. But if anything goes wrong, just start shooting.
You had to catch him up for 700,000 to 800,000 votes that he was behind.
No, you didn't. You didn't have to catch him up. Just had to count the mail-in and absentee ballots. And continue to count the in-person ballots that came in late in the day.
And the only way you were going to do it was with the mail-in ballots. You couldn't have a Democrat and Republican inspector around. They don't even have Democrats watching it. Because they'd be afraid that there'd be honest Democrats who would say, you're cheating.
That's the problem. These aren't even, he can't even attack Democrats at this point. What?
So that takes us to Michigan.
Oh, okay. All right. Since Pennsylvania's nailed, right? You guys got that? 50 people say they weren't allowed to watch stuff counted. Never mind the fact that there were already counters in the room. And there were too many of them. The judge threw that out because he was like, there were already poll watchers. They had already registered and shown up. Your people showed up late or not at all. You don't get to stand outside with long guns and insist you get to watch. There's a process. Fuck off. And then the other one about the 2 Red County guys who didn't get their vote counted when they fucked up, and they want people who got help curing their ballots in Philadelphia and other areas to have their vote not counted because of their screw-up and their representation, which they allegedly voted for at some point in the past. Because they were denied a right by their own representation, they want that right denied of everyone else by their representation, even though those people take more care in choosing who their representation is, so their rights aren't denied. What?
Where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating. And we'll show you her affidavit, because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence.
You have no evidence.
That we have no specific acts of fraud.
You have no specific acts of fraud.
That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself.
Well, since you are the purveyor of quote-unquote the coverage, meaning that you have provided the information and the argument, the problem you have is a source issue. Because I've watched your fucking videos. We did on this show 2 of them. I've watched like 9 of them since August. If there's a lack of information getting out and a lack of specifics and a lack of understanding of the legal case that's being laid out here, it's because the people presenting it are smearing shit all over the walls and calling it an argument.
The American people are entitled to know this. You don't have a right to keep it from them.
Keep what? I am actually showing your shit, young man. That's right. You and the little missus back there, and the head of the HOA over your right shoulder is going to come in and, in her leopard skin outfit, and your stupid ass Hunter Biden laptop bullshit that you made up over the course of a year. Went through all that. I've shown all of it. I don't cut anything. I don't interrupt, except to add information. But if what you came back with magically, because I don't pre-watch these things, undercut what I'd said, I'd obviously be I'm way out over my skis on some of this shit, since I don't know what you're gonna say next. But I do know the facts of the circumstance. You fucking moron.
You don't have a right to lie about it.
No, that's your job. And it's good work if you can get it. Hi. Oh, look at that, a beverage. Thanks, babe. Appreciate it. Everybody thought I cut my hair because they only see the ponytail, so they were all panicking.
Mullet.
Yeah, it's definitely mullety. Yeah. Thank you, my love. I got a seasonal beverage. Here's one of the arguments on Facebook. What is the big deal of checking the ballots to make sure they're legal votes? At least everyone would know Biden won, and everyone would know if there was fraud or illegal votes, Kathleen, American people get to know. I got news for you. We do that with every election. You do not get to create an extra layer of bullshit bureaucracy just because you lost. Every single election, they have added safeguards or variances within states to guarantee the election integrity over time, especially as we got more cyber attacks on our election systems. Every 2 years, states and state houses and the federal government put forward bills, and in the case of Mitch McConnell, they scuttle them half the time. But we do this shit all the time. You don't get to, and if you want to, why with a difference that is so much wider than the last time he won in the exact same counties 4 years ago? Apparently, Donald Trump is a fucking magician and can do everything, and he's the greatest and smartest, and he's way ahead, and it's 9th level chess. But apparently he missed the idea that behind his back, the entire electoral process was being undermined by George Soros and some Democrat bosses. The fuck? And then we, the taxpayer, have to pay for a recount every goddamn time because you don't like that you lost?
And you are. I mean, you don't report to them that a citizen of this country, a very fine woman, who is willing to allow me to give you her name.
Uh-huh. Okay, second time you're wiping your mouth on the goddamn...
I can't give you all these affidavits.
Why not?
Because if I do, these people will be harassed. They'll be threatened.
They're giving you affidavits in a national case that will overturn an election, but they want to be private about it? They're not whistleblowers because they have no inside information. They're your people.
They may lose their job.
They all work for the same place?
They will lose their friends.
Why would that happen if they were people of great integrity, meaning to shore up our election cycle? And I'm going to guess that their friends are either already on the fence about them because if they're on your team already, I'm just saying. But secondly, why would they lose friends? I'm just saying the Klan is notoriously loyal.
We've lost lawyers in this case because they...
That's because you misplaced them. They're not lost. We know where they are.
They've been threatened. We've had lawyers that need protection.
Everyone should wear protection when you're in a hotel room with a... never mind.
What's going on in this country is horrible. And the censorship that you're imposing...
By the way, the death threats that are coming... that the lawyers that were working on these cases are getting are coming from the right. This is not left-wing murderers seeking to kill him. They have dropped cases and left the case, and now they're getting death threats from the Trumpers and the maggots. They weren't driven away from working on this case by death threats.
It's making it worse.
Please show one situation where any of the lawyers who've left the case have made the case that they left because their life was threatened. And I guarantee if you ask them a second question, what you'll find out is they got threatened after they left the case by people who support Trump.
But Jesse Jacob is an adult citizen and a resident of the state of Michigan. She's been an employee of the city of Detroit for decades. I know her age, but she can tell you her age. She was...
Is that just him being gentlemanly? Is that what's happening?
She was assigned to voting duties in September.
Okay, so let's hear it. Let's be real clear about this. Let's break down what he's saying. I'm going to switch over here. I got to go to my creator dashboard real quick. She was assigned to election duties. Rudy's on the duty. Let's do it.
And she was trained by the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. She was basically trained to cheat.
Oh. Well, that was easy. So this is what the people of Detroit do?
She said that I was instructed by my supervisor to adjust the mailing date of these absentee ballot packages to be dated earlier than when they were actually sent in.
No. Okay. Again, this is the woman who wants to write that the boxes put in front of her arrived on the 4th when they had arrived at their polling place the night before. And there's another situation which he's mixing up where the package is sent out. Someone in the office allegedly, according to her, said, you know, we were supposed to send these out on Thursday. So say these ballots went out, not came in, went out to get people's votes earlier than they actually did. That's her allegation. That's the case she's making. Not that fraudulent ballots were brought in, not that ballots were sent to people who didn't deserve them, but the supervisor she had was saying these are supposed to go out. These should say it's Friday, but these were supposed to go out on Wednesday. So put that they went out on Wednesday, or this batch went out on Wednesday. Now, I don't know why that benefits anybody other than a supervisor covering their ass because they were behind in getting the volume of ballots out to the people of Michigan. There's no benefit in the fraudulent side of things to post dating that part. Like people, You don't hold on legally. You can't deny someone's vote because they didn't have their ballot for a full 2 weeks before the election. It doesn't fucking matter. If they got it 10 minutes before they walked in and voted, it's a valid vote because they signed it and they voted. I don't know what the argument is here. This is super odd. This is his argument. This literally, that the ballots that were mailed out so people could vote were alleged, the batches in the shipping log or whatever were backdated to another date. Now, there is no evidence that that actually happened, just that she was told that they go out on this one date.
The supervisor made that announcement for all workers to
So it was really shady scheme then.
engage in that fraudulent practice.
What was the fraudulent practice? Who were they defrauding?
That's not me saying that.
Yes, it is.
That's just American citizens saying that under oath. I don't know.
What's she alleging? I seriously, the fuck is she alleging?
Maybe you could say she's lying.
No, you don't even have to. I think she thinks she saw what she thinks she saw. That doesn't mean she saw what she thinks she saw. It just means she saw something and she's filtering it through her weird QAnon bullshit brain. Because they announced it to the whole fucking room.
But you can't say there's no evidence.
Yes, I can. That's not evidence. It isn't evidence. There is no evidence of... She says something. She didn't bring in, like, I videotaped it. They were putting these ballots in the mail on Friday and saying they were writing on this spreadsheet they went out on Wednesday, which I don't even know what the fuck the crime is. I don't know what he's alleging. This is so dumb. But it's still not evidence. It's not evidence. She's saying that's what the dude announced. There's no one else backing her up on this. And if they come in and you interview those people, they're going to go, no, we do the weekly batch, and then we say Wednesday is the final day on that. If they go out Friday, they're still part of the batch before because we sent them out in 2-week batches. But there were so many of them. Some of them were supposed to be with the last 2-week batch, and somebody slowed down the mail, so the mail trucks weren't showing up when they were supposed to, but they're still part of the 2-week batch from before that. So why did she say that? Because she's fucking crazy. She brought in Q-shaped cookies that had Adderall crushed all over them. I don't know.
This is what we call...
By the way, that little play I just put on for you is every bit as quality as you already voted. No, you didn't. Yes, you did, Mr. Giuliani. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. I know that.
Evidence. This is direct evidence.
No, it isn't. It's not direct evidence. This is a woman telling you what she thinks she saw and signing an affidavit to it. Show me one of these assholes in a Q shirt at any of these Trump rallies and explain to me how they wouldn't sign any fucking thing.
That's circumstantial.
No, it's not. It is ass witness testimony is what this is.
I tried many, many cases, as did all my colleagues here. You put a witness...
No, not all of them.
On a witness stand, witnesses testifying to their own knowledge.
Yes, exactly. And the judge would instruct the jury to incorporate the fact that this was their own knowledge into whether or not they think this is grade A road apples.
The witness goes on the witness stand and she will say, I was told to adjust the date on the absentee ballots.
And the defense would come up and go, did the adjustment of the date nullify any of the ballots that were predated 2 days before or whatever you're alleging, created a secondary false vote or denied someone else their right to vote? No, I do not. Then what the fuck are you doing here? You're witness. That's how that goes down. I'm just saying. I should write for LA Law.
I witnessed election workers and employees going over to the voting booths with voters in order to watch them vote and coach them for whom to vote.
No. How to vote for whom they wanted to. That is your perception. But if somebody needs help with the voting machine, or they've never used it before, or it's brand new, they can run you over there and go, this is how it works. This is the button you push. If you hit green, it'll do this. It's going to print out a version of things. If you want, I want to vote straight Democrats. Fuck this guy. Well, if you want to do that, you can do that by pressing this button. It'll automatically do it. That's coaching someone how to, not why to. If it happened at all, which I doubt.
Completely illegal. She will testify.
Not completely illegal. Not even close to illegal. Not illegal. This is a woman who is peering through the windows of her neighbors, turning them into the cops for having extramarital sex, which she watched all the way through. And she wants them arrested for living in sin or being cohabitating without a marriage license. And then finding out later that they've been married, and that she is going to jail for being a peeping Tom.
Testify to that. I don't know. Biden's people can cross-examine her. But you can't.
Yes, they would. And it would be really fucking easy. I can do it. This is so dumb. That's how dumb. I was Zoltan, and I can figure this shit out. What? Trump screams law and order all the time. Watch some episodes, for fuck's sake. This is goofy.
But you can't just throw it away. Gee, there's no evidence. Next time
Yeah, I can. There's no evidence. There is this woman's statement about what she believes she saw. And considering your perception of how you fucking think provisional ballots work, why would I take... And by the way, do I think that Rudy Giuliani would come in and testify that that's how people get provisional ballots? Do you think for a second this asshole wouldn't sit there, hold his right hand, put his hand on the Bible, and swear that this is how provisional ballots are handed out? The fuck?
time you say that, you'll be lying. Because there is evidence.
No, there isn't. There is no evidence. There is an eyewitness who believes she perceived something to happen.
Oh, by the way, this is public. You can all get it. It's
You mean like COVID?
attached to the complaint in Costantino versus the city of Detroit.
Why don't you fold it shut and read the cover page? What are you doing?
Then she was instructed by my supervisor not to ask for a driver's license or any photo ID.
Yeah. People don't have to show photo ID when they're already registered. If you cast a provisional ballot, you have to show photo ID in Michigan. But you show your ID when you register to vote. And that registration stays with you until you have to change your registration. But they don't have a voter ID law in Michigan. And if you try, you'll get fired. She's being told that because she probably went, how do I know these fuckers are real? I can't tell one black person from another. This whole county's black. I don't know. Listen here. I moved up to here about 3 weeks ago, just outside the registration deadline, and I live here now. I work for the Trump campaign. It's not really Trump Pence. We don't even talk about him. Trump campaign down in Mississippi. And then they brought me up here, and I now live over in a trailer with a bunch of other Trump volunteers to try and scuttle the Michigan vote. And how am I supposed to know these black people? I'm supposed to tell them apart. Do they have ID? Ma'am, I appreciate you volunteering and wanting to help your country, but we show ID or verification of identity when we register to vote, not at the polls, because we have a system in place wherein a person can only vote once. If anybody tries to vote with your ballot, they'll get arrested and do 10 years, and nobody wants to do that for a single vote. It's madness. And it's an extra layer of bureaucracy, and it also costs people money. You know, if they can't afford to have a driver's license, or if it gets taken away or lost or something, that doesn't mean they get denied the right to vote. We don't want a bunch of people running around pickpocketing before an election to deny everybody the right to vote. It would be very easy to do such a thing. So we allow people to come in and they use their signature, which matches. And we match that against that. So you don't ask for ID. Well, what the shit? That's this woman. That's her argument.
When a person was trying to vote.
Vote! Because they've already shown ID when they registered and they don't have a Michigan voter ID law. Fuck you.
Don't ask for identification.
Yeah. They have a signature. It matches. The person, when you show up to vote, matches the signature you signed to your ballot. You're the person. You have a polling place. You're assigned to it specific to your neighborhood.
Why would you not ask for identification?
Because you don't have a voter identification law in Michigan. Know the law, dickhead.
Because you knew that a lot of people not entitled to vote were going to come in and early vote.
Or you knew that the Trump campaign was going to get people to volunteer at places and try to get people's make it so that people could not vote by being racist and going, I don't recognize you.
Because you knew that illegal immigrants were going to be allowed to vote.
Oh, when did that happen? In Michigan, Michigan now has a Mexico problem. How long is this fucking wall going to be?
You knew, if you lived in Philadelphia, unless you're...
Stay in one state, asshole. You're mixing... Every state has different standards of how they do it. God damn it.
Stunad, that's an Italian expression for stupid. Unless you're stupid, you knew that a lot of people were coming over from Camden to vote. They do every year. Happens all the time in Philly.
In local elections, do people live in Philadelphia but have a cottage in Camden? And by the way, how is the vote in Camden that different from the vote in Philly that you travel over there to throw it to Democrats? Is that the argument now?
It's about as frequent as getting beaten up at a Philadelphia Eagle football game.
What I mean, as long as we're being specific. That is so funny. People get beat up at games. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that, Rudy.
All the time. And it's allowed to happen because
black people are violent. Is that what we're going? Is that what we're doing? That's the whole thing?
It is a Democrat corrupt city and has been for years.
Which I'm sure you would have said if Trump had won it.
Many years.
They don't have a photo ID rule.
And they carried it out in places they could get away with it.
Somebody's saying that Michigan does have a voter ID rule. They have you have to identify yourself. You don't have to have a photo ID.
They didn't carry it out in neutral places. They didn't carry it out in Republican places. They didn't carry it out where the law is respected.
You mean in the counties that you didn't sue in Philadelphia that denied your client the right to vote because he didn't have his privacy envelope?
Carried it out in...
And by the way, they did the right thing, and you're arguing that they... All right.
A corrupt city where the district attorney...
Seriously. I'm not going to mix states like he is.
Attorney releases criminals en masse, which is why it has so much crime.
What? They just dump criminals on the street? Is that what we're arguing?
She also said, I observed...
Wait, what does that have to do with voting? Hold on. Hold on. Let me hear that whole thing again. What the fuck?
A corrupt city where the district attorney releases criminals en masse, which is why it has so much crime.
They just open the gates? Is this what we're supposed to... What?
She also said, I observed a large number of people who came to the satellite location to vote in person, but they had already applied for and submitted an absentee ballot. So she observed a lot of people voting twice.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't.
Again, this is...
Again, no, she didn't. She said she saw them come there. Maybe they were worried about their mail-in ballot not getting in because of all the stories about Louis DeJoy. Maybe their ballot didn't show up, and they went, I applied for and mailed in my ballot, but on the app it's not showing that it came in. I would like to vote. Well, you got to vote provisionally. Okay.
Jesse Jacob. I was instructed not to invalidate any ballots and not to look for any deficiency in the ballots.
That's because it wasn't her job. That's not your job. You don't have access to the voter rolls. That's not your job. You're supposed to process this part. That's like they put you on hand sanitizer duty and you want to be in charge of all the food. Got assigned a task because they needed to be efficient?
Because you're cheating.
No, because it wasn't her job.
On purpose cheating.
No, because they didn't trust her.
Intentionally cheating. You're cheating as a institution. This is
It's an institution. That's why they yelled it with a bullhorn.
an instruction from the election commissioner
This is the same shit.
or the employer to the worker. Don't look
Sorry if there's a delay in...
for any deficiencies in the ballots. I was instructed not to look at any of the signatures of the absentee ballots. If she was instructed not to look for any of the signatures on the absentee ballots, why the heck do you sign it in the first place?
Because it wasn't her job to check signatures. What the shit was her job? Here's the one thing. All right. Here's the thing they're not saying repeatedly. What was her assignment? What the hell was she assigned to do? Because there's lots of jobs. There's signature checkers. There's people who are just like bringing boxes of ballots in. There are people who are cleaning up. There's people who work and do 2 jobs in a shift. There's volunteers that do all kinds of things. If you're assigned to one particular job and you try to do the other job, I'm going to guess you're not there to do your job. You're there to guarantee your side wins. You're there to scuttle shit. So this sounds a lot like, Karen, would you please, we have people doing that. Well, that don't look right. That just does not look right to me. These people, look at all these Biden votes. This is wrong. This is all wrong. Yeah, Karen, we put you on an envelope duty. We need to make sure that those are stacked and sealed. Can you please do that? Look, understand.
In order to identify it. She was instructed not to do that because many of the absentee ballots were fraudulent, and they knew that.
No, they weren't. And no, they didn't. You're assuming that because this woman whose job it wasn't... never mind.
And they didn't want to have to counter that.
Oh, boy. Sweaty, sweaty man. She seriously looks like she's going, fuck you, dude. There's a weird look on her face. Like I've stood on stage and waited my turn to speak many, many times. And in general, it's good practice, in general anyways, it's good practice to vacillate between watching the speaker with a relaxed face and paying attention, and splitting that with the audience that is present and making personable connection with the people that are there. All she's doing is casting a spell on the back of his head. I'm beginning to think that the goop that runs down the side of his face is literally her using her scanner's powers. Like, I'll show you. I wanted to speak first. And inside we... it's like a horror movie.
On November 4, 2020, I was instructed to improperly predate the absentee ballots when the receipt date was actually was after November 3rd, 2020. Now, this is really significant.
Okay, wait. The absentee, hold on.
Was after November, instructed to improperly predate the absentee ballots.
Absentee ballots. Absentee ballots.
When the receipt date was actually was after November 3rd, 2020. Now, this is really significant because
absentee ballots are mailed in, and if they received them after, they didn't have to receive them before or on election day. You could receive them after. I don't know what your problem is.
Justice Alito of the Supreme Court
Yes, said they should be set aside, and they were.
instructed Pennsylvania that any ballot that comes in after 8 o'clock on November 3rd,
No, not any ballot.
2020, had to be put aside and
No, they didn't.
not opened because there's a question as to its legality.
No, that was from boxes of drop-off boxes that they brought in. Not the fault of the voter, just the overwhelm of the system. They were set aside, they were verified, then they were counted.
And its constitutionality. What she's telling you is
What she's telling you is that the county sets up drop-off boxes. You put your vote in that drop-off box on or before Election Day. It sits there for 24 or 48 hours whenever you put it in or whenever they change out the box. And then, because of people like her that want to scuttle and slow down the process, everything's taking a little bit longer. They go pick up this box of stuff, and it shows up, and it gets on your desk on the 4th. But it was cast on or before the 3rd, and that closed, sealed ballot box, that drop-off box, had a little piece of tape put over the front of it, or they locked it on at 8:30 on election night. So no more ballots can be put in it. But the ballots that were in it weren't picked up until after that point. And they had a truck come by, they gathered them all up, they bring them in, and then they put them in front of people to count. And what she wanted to do, because she didn't want to count any of the mail-in and absentee ballots because she likes Trump and wants only the in-person ballots to count, is that she wanted everything thrown out that came from that box, even though those people voted in good faith in that box.
that they blatantly disregarded that order.
No, they didn't.
That they took ballots that were marked the 4th and the 5th and the 6th, and they marked it down for the 3rd in blatant disregard of the order of the United
How did they mark it down? What are you talking about? They were either postmarked or they were in a box in the ballot, in the drop-off box. Where were they marked down? What she meant, literally, this is what you're going to find out. If you cross-examine this woman, I would say 100% that she will sit there and they will go, when did these ballots arrive? I was working there, it was Thursday, and they were still bringing in ballots. Where had they been? They were stored in a facility until they reached us. Oh, I see. So you received them on the 5th. Yes. Were you aware of when they were cast? No. I don't think they were ever cast. I think they're fake. I think they were printed out right on my lap. Ma'am, these all came from a locked ballot drop-off box that was available to anyone up till 8:30 on Election Day. These are valid ballots. Now you're in charge of counting the ballots, not verifying the signatures. Well, I don't want to sit here and just count ballots. They all say Biden on them. Biden, 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 Biden. That's what this is. Fucking hell.
Supreme Court. This is. I don't know if she's a Democrat or Republican.
Yes, you do.
I assume if she's working for the.
Oh God.
I assume if she's working for the city of Detroit.
Oh, my headphones died. Hold on.
Of Detroit, that she's a Democrat. I assume, but I may be wrong.
She must be. So, do we have? All right, never
She's
mind.
a citizen.
Are you sure? How do I know? She could be Mickey Mouse for all I know. A lot of people have that name. How do I know? How do I know that?
I've never met her, never coached her.
Never seen her. Don't know if she exists. She might as well be Mickey Mouse. There could be 50 of these.
And I'd like you to note that it's signed under penalties of perjury.
As is everyone's registration to vote.
We have 100 more of these.
Well, then address them.
I can't show them to you. Because those people don't want to be harassed. They don't want to have their lives torn apart by the goons on the other side. We don't.
Really? You mean they don't want you to show it in public, and they wouldn't sign up for it if you showed it in public because they don't actually exist? And the ones that actually do, if you actually put it out there, people would go, wait a minute, You didn't even work at that fucking building. Like, well, I walked by there a couple times before I did that. But you were assigned to another place entirely. What were you doing over there? I was concerned about things. Well, why weren't you doing your job where you needed to do your job? That's what you're afraid of. That's 100%.
We don't do that to them. They've done that to a lot of our people. They've done it for 4 years.
Okay, I know there's sweat happening, but there's also dribbling happening.
And it's outrageous that it's tolerated, and it's tolerated because you condone it.
What are you talking about? No one's condoning the harassing of witnesses. And asking someone to legitimize their argument in a situation where they're trying to overturn the entire election and delegitimize 684,000 votes because they signed an affidavit saying they saw something, people are going to want to know whether or not that person can tell their ass from their elbow. And they're going to be asked questions about that kind of thing because this is a democracy. They're not going to get death threats. They're going to be called assholes or stupid if they indeed are. If they even exist. Again, I am only going on the assumption that those are real people and the affidavits are actually genuine. You haven't presented him in court. Literally, they've been wagging these friggin' things, and it sort of just occurred to me right now, but they've been wagging these affidavits around all over the goddamn place, but they have not put them up in court anywhere. None of these affidavits have been entered in as actual exhibits, as far as I know.
In the press, and you don't cover it, and you don't condemn it, and it shouldn't happen to a Republican.
Wait, am I supposed to cover it or condemn it or show it or not show it? I'm confused at this point, Rudy.
Or a Democrat. A lawyer shouldn't have to withdraw from a case because he's representing the President of the United States.
They're not. That's why they joined the thing. They withdrew from the case because there's no case. And it's going to fuck up their firm's record if they take stinkers. This is all right.
There are many more affidavits here. I'd like to read them all to you, but I don't have the time.
Why not? You called this. Why? You could have literally, in the time we've been here, read these fucking things.
You should have had the time and energy to go look for them.
I shouldn't have to get paid $20,000 a day to do this shit. You guys should be doing it for free and then bringing it to me while I get $20,000 for not even having to do it. I shouldn't have to vet these things and call these people. These people are disgusting. Why is he pissed?
That's your job.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. To chase down your side's allegations, it's not their job. What? Why is he pissed?
It's my job to defend the president and to represent.
Well, job well done.
The president. It's your job to read these things and not falsely report that there's no evidence.
There's no evidence.
Do you know how many affidavits we have in the Michigan case?
I've heard 50, 48, and 100.
220 affidavits.
That's new.
They're not all public, but 8 of them are.
8. We can show you 8. We can show you 8. Really?
4 affiants here. Those are people who give affidavits.
See, affiants. He's flexing his knowledge and his legal skills.
Report an incident that, under any other circumstances, would have been on the front page of all your newspapers if it didn't involve the hatred that you have, irrational, pathological hatred that you have for the president. What they swear to is that at 4:30 in the morning.
This is the ballots came in that they didn't see, but when they did see them, it was Biden, 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 Biden. This one?
A truck pulled up to the Detroit center where they were counting ballots. The people thought it was
with food?
Food. So they all ran to the truck. It wasn't food. It was thousands and thousands of ballots.
No, it wasn't. That's not even what that alleges. You're conflating this. We watched this fucking video where he talks about this. We saw the interview with the woman who, she was on the news. We know this story. This is the story where they allegedly came in the other side. So I thought you were actually going to go, they ran to the trucks thinking they were food. And while they were at the fake food trucks, they snuck in a bunch of ballots behind them. And they were all for Biden, even though I never got to see them and I was too far away. But when I did see them, they were all Biden, 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 Biden. We heard this shit before. This is so dumb.
And the ballots were in garbage cans. They were in paper bags. They were in cardboard boxes. And they would take...
Okay, the paper bags and garbage cans thing is from a viral video put out by Republicans to make it look like they were throwing out Trump ballots. Just like the video of the ones being set on fire, which were sample ballots, weren't the ones you actually turn in, don't actually do you any good. You can just print them out. So they just printed out a bunch of them and pretended, look at these, they're all in the garbage. They're throwing them all out. They all say Trump. I mean, there's nothing else voted for on them. There's no names or anything like that. They just chucked them in the garbage. Right.
Were taken into the center. They were put on a number of tables.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, they thought all the Republican inspectors had left, all but two had, and an employee of Dominion, who we'll address a little bit later, Dominion. And he
Venezuela, there's going to be, listen here, don't forget, you got to be very careful, okay? You got to be very, very careful, my friend, because there's all these situations where Venezuela, they mess around with the vote, yeah? You understand? I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
And here's what they jointly swear to.
Yeah.
That every ballot that they could see, everything they could hear, these were ballots for Biden. When they saw a ballot...
Yeah, I did this already on my show. You read the guy's argument. In the same video, you were like, I was unable to see anything. I was put too far away. I was unable to view any of the ballots. I never got a chance to see a single name on there. And then 2 minutes later, everyone I heard was for Biden. Biden, 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 Biden. Always Bidening.
These were ballots only for Biden, meaning there was no down ticket. Just Biden. Many of them didn't have anything on the outer envelope because these ballots were produced.
Half of them were rubber. Honest to God, they were making paper airplanes out of Trump ballots and chucking them into a garbage bin as just to see how far they could go.
Very quickly, very swiftly.
Uh-huh.
And they're estimated to be a minimum of 60,000, maximum of 100,000. Many of them were triple counted, which means they were put in...
No. What he's talking about is and this is not the ballot itself, this is the envelope that checks the signatures on the envelope. They run them through a machine, and it's got a 30% kill rate, or a 70% kill rate. 30% of the signatures are accepted, and then the rest of them have to be done by eyeballed because the machine isn't perfect. So they run a bunch of them through just to save time, and if they automatically match because somebody nails their signature every goddamn time, it goes straight through. The rest of them have to be judged by eyeballs, and they go out. They'll try it 3 or 4 times, because it'll take after the second time. But once it's done, it's done. It's like, okay, now we separate it because that signature's been counted, or, as part of it. This is so fucking dumb.
Put into the...
How do you think this shit works? It's 2020, asshole. We're not purple fingering it over here.
Counting machine this way. Once, twice.
3 times a lady, and I vote.
3 times. I didn't see that.
No, you didn't. Neither did they.
I don't know that, but for the
You don't.
fact that 3 American citizens are willing to swear to it.
Yeah. Because they weren't looking at a vote tallying machine. They were looking at a signature verification machine. What fucking good does it, in the rolls at all, to triple verify a signature? Seriously.
And we're not going to let them go to court and do that?
No.
We're going to let this election go by when there are, in this case, 60 witnesses
There aren't. You're overlapping your witnesses again.
that can prove what I'm saying to you and other acts.
They cannot prove it. They can allege it. That's what their affidavit does. It alleges a certain thing. And when they sit on the stand, someone's going to go, what did you see? Well, they were taking these things and they were coming in and they were putting them in the machine like 4 times. What was the machine? It was this Dominion machine. Okay, where were you? I was standing right here. Okay, what machine was this? Can you describe the machine? Yeah, it looked like a printer, had this kind of thing on it, read this thing. Okay, that's the signature verification. Is this the machine you're looking at? Yes, it is. That's the one. That's the machine. Okay, this is a signature verification machine. It does not actually count ballots. Doesn't tally them. Verifies the signature on the outside of the envelope or the form itself. If it doesn't match, it kicks it out. People have to do it by eyeball. They have to look at what the voter wrote down in the rolls that shows up on the tally list, and they have to make a little check and say, yes, that person voted, and then that gets tallied in after, and that means that person can't try to vote again. Is that the machine you saw? Yes, it is. Did you see this machine? No, I did not see that machine. You know what that machine is? No, that's the one that counts the ballots. It's a different machine. Can you tell me what's different about these? Well, one's gray and one's white. Okay. So you're not confusing these machines? No, I'm not. Okay, you're a witness. Like, seriously.
Acts of fraud in Michigan? I mean, what's happened to this country?
You have happened to this friggin' country.
If we're going to let that happen. What happened to this country if we're going to cover that up?
We're not covering it up. You're saying it. You're wagging your shit around. I'm commenting on it.
We let Al Gore carry on an election dispute longer than this one has been going on for one state and for Chad's. This happened in Pennsylvania.
The one state had a 500 vote margin.
It happened in Michigan. Michigan probably right now, if I count up the affidavits, just one case alone, Trump v. Benson, a case that we dismissed today because that case was attempting to get the Wayne County Board of Supervisors to decertify. Well, they did.
No, they didn't.
They decertified.
No, they didn't.
That case has
They were holding certification. They did not decertify.
100 affidavits. And the 100 affidavits show essentially what I've talked to you about.
No, they allege it. They allege it. And it is increasingly clear that not only are the people that you have filling out these affidavits are sycophantic Trump supporters who will do anything for dear leader, but also that they are jackasses who, even after going through voter orientation, like voter, whatever, like poll watching and, ballot counting assistance training, still didn't understand the shit that was right in front of them.
Counting ballots improperly, counting them 3 and 4 times.
They didn't count anything 3 or 4 times.
Having people vote 3 and 4 times.
There's no sign at all that anybody voted 3 or 4 times. There are not 150,000 votes from a county that has 100,000 voters. That's just fucking not occurring.
Changing and backdating ballots.
They didn't change or backdate a ballot. They properly marked the arrival date, but not the issuance date because of, I guess they were sealed in the box. That's the assumption. That your operatives didn't want to count any legal ballot that was cast on or before Election Day that came in from a drop-off box. You wanted to scuttle them on a technicality that you made up in your fucking head.
To the point of at least 300,000
extracting your ass
ballots that we can specifically identify. The margin in Michigan was 146,121. And these ballots were all cast basically in Detroit that Biden won 80-20.
Yeah. What's the population of demographic breakdown of Detroit? What's the one group of people that put Biden over the top when it came to the primary, for example. What's the all right?
So you see a change as a result of the election in Michigan. If you take out Wayne County,
Yeah, if you remove all the black people, we do really well.
so it's a very significant case. That is being raised in the case of Costantino versus the city of Detroit. Not by us, but by an individual plaintiff. We are helping and assisting in that case, however.
Oh yeah? Okay. So what's the Constantino did this without you, so you don't have to hide what they said. I guess that doesn't include in your affidavits, or maybe it does. But if you're assisting in that case, explain what your assistance is.
And you can find all the affidavits that you want filed in that case. And you can find out they're not just allegations, they're allegations supported by sworn testimony, which is a lot better than Joe Biden has ever done on anything. He doesn't answer.
I don't know why the random Joe Biden attack. I mean, you're either prosecuting this case on the merits, or this is absolutely a political hit job. You don't make much case for yourself if you're just. And again, he's a master criminal with dementia. He's got a spider-like control over the entire world, bouncing votes to Barcelona. But he can't tie his shoes. I get it.
Doesn't answer questions, much less give you sworn affidavits. Wisconsin had a very small margin, 20,544 last time I
And it increased.
looked. In Wisconsin, without going into great detail, very similar plan. Republicans shut out in the city of Milwaukee and also in Madison.
Ew. Aw, thanks. Thank you, Christina, for the Venmo. I appreciate that. And happy birthday. That's fantastic.
Republicans almost uniformly shut out from the absentee process, not allowed to inspect, not allowed to look at the ballots.
No. There were Republican Democratic poll watchers at all the signature verification sites. Your assholes don't get to storm the castle after the fact and then claim they were denied.
We have in Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin a much stricter law. Wisconsin doesn't allow mail-in ballots. They didn't buy into the big mail-in ballot situation.
No.
Wisconsin, when you look at their constitution, almost seems to not like absentee ballots. They state it's not a right, a privilege. And they have very, very strict procedures.
Yeah, ones that don't work during a pandemic, I'm guessing. And this is just gross.
And the strict procedure says that you can't be given an absentee ballot. You have to personally apply for it. It's illegal, basically, to solicit a vote. And they have actually many reasons for it. That probably goes back to their
to time when guns only had one lead ball in the end of it and some wadding. And it took you 10 minutes to fire 3 shots.
Progressive days. When I say progressive, I mean late 19th century, early 20th century progressive, when that really meant progressive, not retrogressive.
All right, great. Thank you for clarifying.
So there are 60,000 ballots in Milwaukee County and 40,000 ballots in Madison that, as far as we can tell, and this is why we're auditing, because we have very good information, the numbers are going to come out about here, that don't have applications. Under the law of the state of Wisconsin, already decided.
Okay, so do you have any evidence that the people who voted in these circumstances did not want to vote, didn't vote, someone voted on their behalf, they were denied the right to vote when they requested one, or they voted under false pretenses? Or are you just trying to kick out 100,000 votes by randomly assuming that since you can't put the application with them, or they did it years ago, or it was a new one, that they shouldn't qualify or didn't?
If there's no application for an absentee ballot, the absentee ballot is thrown away.
Why? Did the person vote twice? If you lose my application, because it wasn't filed in a county clerk's office? Am I now unable, is my right to vote scuttled? Okay, asshole, this is how it would work. If that is indeed the law as you present, and I doubt that it is, but let's operate on the premise that he's, for once in his life, knows what the fuck he's talking about. If there was a rule that says you have to apply to vote absentee, and there was no application for that from these people, A, how the fuck did they get it? Secondly, if they got it and believed that they had a universal right to apply to vote absentee because of COVID, because of the pandemic, they had every right under the Supreme Court to exercise a right that they were given the belief that they could have. You receive a ballot, you have every right to believe that without having to apply for it, you receive that ballot and therefore you can use it if nobody came knocking at your door and shoved it in your face and told you how to fill it out, which is a whole other allegation they're not making. But you receive an absentee ballot, and you in good faith fill that out and you sent it in, and you never applied for it, but you weren't aware that you had to apply for it. You voted in good faith. Your vote is not scuttled. What you would have in that situation is a provisional ballot. 100,000 of those ballots would be set aside as provisional until that person could come forward and give evidence that they wanted to vote that way, and they would. And all of them would. This is fucking dumb.
This all happened in two places in Wisconsin.
You mean the place where the people are?
Didn't happen in northern Wisconsin.
Because there's nobody up there.
Happen in Republican Wisconsin. Didn't happen in neutral Wisconsin.
Is there where? You ever been to neutral Wisconsin? Flattest beer you'll ever have. Not that I would know.
An equal number of Republicans and Democrats. It happened in a place where the vote was 75, 80% for the Democrat.
Uh-huh. You mean districts that go for the Democrat that often and that solidly? Voted that often and that solidly?
You take away any number of those, and that 20,000 lead disappears. In other words, if you count the law...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And by the way, this is again them trying to scuttle votes by legitimate voters. On a technicality. That's what they want to do. That's beyond any argument that they think they legally have, which is fart air and will never go anywhere. Above and beyond that, understand the core ethically of what they're trying to do. Their argument is that 100,000 people voted in good faith, and they want their votes thrown out because of a technicality they believe exists, which supersedes the idea of voting in a pandemic and goes back apparently to a time when, when guns look like trumpets.
The lawful votes, Trump won Wisconsin by a good margin. Indeed,
none of those votes are unlawful.
If you count the lawful votes in Pennsylvania, he won it by about 300,000 votes.
And by lawful, we mean the white ones.
Also,
I know this is we got a crowd in here.
So,
I got to put my hair in a ponytail more often.
In the lawsuit filed in Wisconsin, which is really a petition because of their procedures, there were no inspectors provided for the count of the illegal ballots. There were numerous...
You don't inspect the ballots when they're being counted. You inspect the ballots when they are being separated from the envelope. And this goes more than anything else to exactly the issue with this asshole. And this is how this is gonna shake out, isn't it? This is how we're gonna figure this nonsense out. That they have been arguing this whole time. Think about this. They've been arguing that Republicans have not been allowed to view the ballots, to verify the ballots. What they don't recognize is that the viewing and verifying part, which there were plenty of people for, happens during the envelope process, not the counting part. You don't verify a ballot that's being counted because there's no one associated. There's nothing to validate. It's already been through the validation process. It's a piece of paper. So if somebody voted for one person or every person or every other person or filled out the Scantron like it was they were trying to make a pattern, it's none of your goddamn business. That's the right of the voter. And you don't get to, as a Republican, wait a minute. I call bullshit far too many Biden voters in this. That's what they're asking to do. This has nothing to do with verification of signatures or the validity of a ballot. He literally thinks that they're supposed to have inspectors in there as the ballots are being counted, beyond the fact that everybody there is taking an oath and there's volunteers from both parties working in there all the time, that you take the ballot, you run it through, and if it registers, it's done. It's got a barcode associated with it. All of them do. If it goes through twice, it red flags it. You can't run the same ballot through 10 times because they all have a corresponding barcode for an individual voter, which is not tied to the person's information, so you can't go hunt them down.
There's backdated ballots. We're just counting them now, run over into the thousands. And there were many precincts in which there was an overvote. Now, let me explain to you what an overvote is.
This is the idea. This is the one he's pressing on. Now, what he's talking about here is non-resident voters. So he thinks that if your kid's away at college, or they're, because of quarantine, living in, Minneapolis, so they decided to go away to school, but they're not coming back because they don't want to get their parents sick and it's in the middle of a quarantine, that they should not be allowed to vote by mail if they are currently residing at a college. Now, in the same state they're in the college, the Republicans also push a thing where they're not allowed to vote while they're there. This is an attempt that they used in Nevada to keep military personnel who work over the border in California, who are on the base in California, but who live and are residents of and vote in Nevada, to keep them from voting. They've filed multiple things about this too, which is complete horseshit, totally un-American, and an attack on our military.
Which is something you should have explained to the American people, because it's about the clearest circumstantial evidence of massive fraud that you can have.
Clear circumstantial evidence. Another oxymoron from the law firm of Giuliani and Sweathog.
It is, if 200% of the people who are registered in a district vote. Think about that.
No. 100% of the people who are registered in a district vote. What he's talking about, and what he's lying to the press about right now, is residency. Now, there isn't a situation where they're having 200% of an area voting. They simply aren't. Now, voter turnout will crank up something because people decide to vote in an election when they normally don't vote. So normally they've got 100 registered voters, but 200 people show up to vote this time. And, varying degrees of regular voters versus people who lived away and moved back or got a provisional ballot. That's where they're including in this extra number, is provisional ballots, because people don't normally vote, or same-day registrations, which they think should be illegal.
200% of the registered voters in a district vote. What does that mean?
That means you're seeing double because you're drunk.
That means somebody voted twice. That means somebody who's not entitled to vote voted.
And define entitled to vote.
An illegal.
An illegal. Mexicans.
A person from another city or state.
You mean somebody who's living outside the state who's actually registered only to vote in that state? Like me, for example. I'm in Las Vegas right now, but I am a California voter, and I only vote for my representative in California, my mayor in California, where in the county and city that I'm in, all the commissioners, all the judges there. I don't vote for those things here. I vote for the president and as a national federal level office, but I vote for my California senators and my California representatives in my district. I don't vote here. And the reason I'm here during the voting process is because of fucking COVID.
A person who's not registered. But what it means is that those are illegitimate.
If they're not registered, then their vote will just show up as a provisional.
Votes. You don't have an overvote of 200% or 300%.
You have regular voters, and then you have turnout.
You don't have an overvote of 100%. Most precincts.
No, you don't.
Don't have 100% turnout. In fact, classically, it's considered to be an overvote if you go over 80%. So
you're considering that 40% turnout in the 2018 election versus 80% turnout in the presidential election, you're counting that as 100% overvote. That's what we're talking about. This is bullshit.
Michigan and Wisconsin, we have overvotes in numerous precincts of 150%, 200%, and 300%.
Of what percentage? The population of the city? The number of registered voters? Or am I going to go with the number of people who voted in 2018 versus the presidential election?
One of the reasons why the two Republicans did not certify in Wayne, Michigan, Wayne County,
They did, by the way.
Michigan, is because the overvote was so high, monstrously high.
Turnout. Turnout's what he means.
In about 2/3 of the precincts in the city of Detroit, which means magically 2 and 3 times the number of registered voters turned out to vote. In fact, we have
2 and 3, listen to that. 2 and 3 times the number of registered voters turned out to vote. So that sentence, if you're listening, might make you think that what he just said was 2 to 3 times the number of people that are registered to vote came out to vote. Right? That's the perception of what he said. What did he actually say? What did he actually say? What are the words that he actually said as a lawyer, even though, yeah.
the precincts in the city of Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
which means magically 2 and 3 times the number of registered voters turned out to vote.
Yep. So, you've got 100 registered voters. In the 2018 election, 30% of them showed up. And this time, 90% of them showed up. That's 200 to 300 times, 200% or 300% the number of people, registered voters who showed up. The problem they have is fucking turnout. He's arguing that turnout is suspicious.
In fact, we have precincts in which 2 times the number of people who live there, including children, voted.
Please show me the affidavit where a child voted.
That's absurd.
Yes, it is absurd. It's an absurd claim. Even she doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. You've gone so far off that this woman, who is watching from behind, is quite confused. She's like, "Oh, is it what? Did what?"
The frustration of this is, what I'm describing to you is a massive fraud.
Well, yeah. But that's like saying you just ran in all breathless into the cabin and start describing Bigfoot. And we realize later that it was a raccoon standing on a garbage can and you're drunk.
It isn't a little teeny one. It isn't, 100 votes switched here or there. Georgia. We're about to file a major lawsuit in Georgia.
And you're about to fail again.
That'll be filed probably tomorrow. I don't need to go through it.
Probably. I don't know.
Virtually the same things I've told you before. In the city of Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
Republicans were not allowed to watch the absentee mail-in ballot process. Inspections completely cast aside.
Again, are we talking about the counting or are we talking about the separation of envelopes? Because I'm guessing from the history of what you've been talking about so far, and the only clear thing that we've discovered in this whole bullshit gathering is that you think that there should be an inspection of the ballots themselves before they are entered into the machine because you're trying to hanging Chad these things?
And we have numerous double voters.
Yeah, the AP called Georgia for Biden. It's not even close.
We have numerous out-of-state voters. And
You mean military voters?
And we have
What's wrong with being an out-of-state voter? Especially if you're in the military. Tons of people in Georgia are in the military. Half the ballots you're trying to cast out are military ballots.
specific evidence of intimidation and changes of vote. That'll all be in the lawsuit that comes out tomorrow.
Great. I'm sorry. Can we give us a little bit of a hint? I want to hear the intimidation part. It just sounds so juicy.
Arizona is a state that we're looking at very, very carefully.
I've been there. There's a lot of sand. Phoenix got a nice little monorail-ish kind of train system. Southwest Hub, that's helpful. Wild Horse Ranch Rescue is a great charity that operates out of Phoenix. They're lovely.
I would say we're probably going to bring a lawsuit in Arizona. More than probably.
Yeah, probably. Why not? I mean,
I think we are going to bring a lawsuit in Arizona. We're still collecting that evidence.
well, that's good. At least you didn't get any snot on the...
And the state that we're looking at that would surprise you is we have very, very significant amount of fraud allegations in the state of New Mexico, and we have a...
let me guess. The fraud allegations come from the fact that there are far too many Hispanic people voting for my taste. They've got to be illegal. Some of them have to be. I mean, look at these people. Is that the gist of the affidavit?
Significant number
Christ.
of allegations in the state of Virginia. I don't know yet whether the number in Virginia will reach the number that can turn the election.
Yeah, Virginia, the state where the fucking CIA and the Pentagon are, they're pretty slapdash with the voting there.
In the states that we have indicated in red, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, we more than double the number of votes needed to overturn the election in terms of provable illegal ballots.
No, you don't. That, again, you're alleging, obviously we're all getting a good lesson in why legal language matters. Because, honestly, if Rudy was under oath right now, he would be guilty of making false statements repeatedly.
All you got to do to find out if I'm misleading you at all
is watch my show, the last 4 of them.
Is to look at the lawsuits.
Why? That's your filing. That's the case you're making.
Look what's alleged. Look at the affidavits.
I did, and so far nothing.
Maybe we can supply more affidavits. In order to do it,
You're going to need a lot more than affidavits. Again, this whole...
I have to get permission from the people. But
the people... Oh my God, he's melting. Oh.
in the materials I have here, there
Wait a minute.
are at least 10 that come from citizens.
Rudy?
We have 1,000
Rudy?
at least.
Rudy?
And we're getting
Rudy?
more every day.
Rudy?
And there are other aspects of this.
She just can't look at you. And there's obviously it's not... We're seeing it on the side of your face. She's seeing it on your back. There's something running down your back, Rudy. And over there, she can't even look at you anymore. Look at that. She's like, not me.
This fraud that at this point I really can't reveal.
Why not? I can't even.
This is really enough.
Yes, it is. This is yeah.
Enough to overturn any election.
No, it isn't.
It's disgraceful what happened.
Yes, it is. I mean, insofar as we're talking about this entire press conference so far.
And I'll conclude by asking you to just think about this for a minute.
Okay, I'm going to think about it, but it's going to be hard to get this image out of my head.
What happened on the morning of November 3rd when they were going to count this new kind of ballot?
That would be the morning of November 4th is what you're thinking of. But we're doing, I mean, sorry. I know I shouldn't help, but.
Mail-in ballot. Did every Democrat leader in Pennsylvania and in Michigan and
Oh, God. That's just gross.
in Wisconsin and in
And we're assuming it's spray on hair color, right?
Georgia and in Nevada and in Arizona, they all wake up and all separately have the same idea?
What's this? Oh, and this is the RICO case argument that he's going to make, the circumstantial RICO argument that, oh, they all thought, hey, you know what we'll do in our state? We'll exclude Republicans from being able to view the voting process. Whatever bullshit he's making the argument. That they supposedly did, which none of the states did, though. But apparently, not only did this thing that he alleges didn't happen, but there was coordination between the things. Oh, God.
Did they all separately
Yeah, I don't know why he can't get his hair done. How?
have the idea that we're going to put Republican inspectors...
Oh, and he missed it. God damn it. This is like telling somebody they have food in their teeth, and they're like, no, the others, no, don't mirror me.
Pens. We're not going to let them look at mail-in or absentee ballots.
Get that out of the way.
They all independently come up with that. Like, just by coincidence. They say, hey, we're going to put the Republicans in pens and corrals.
That's what happened. It was like basically FEMA camps, basically.
We're going to do it in Pittsburgh. We're going to do it in Philadelphia.
Well, isn't he married to his cousin?
We're going to do it in Detroit. We're going to do it in Milwaukee. We're going to do it in Las Vegas.
Yeah!
We're going to do it in Phoenix. What did I miss? Oh, we're going to do it in Atlanta. Or isn't the logical conclusion that I think any jury would accept after they heard this evidence?
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. I don't know why this asshole thinks we have to take his word for what's in the affidavits, and we have to take his word for the allegations that they actually make are true. Again, you could absolutely give in court, you could go, Your Honor, I totally assume that all the people who signed these affidavits are telling the truth insofar as their belief of what they saw and what they engaged in. Our argument, Your Honor, is that they're fucking morons. And they didn't see anything close to what they're alleging they saw. That's the problem.
Somebody had this plan? Maybe that was always the plan?
Maybe you just made this plan up in your head because you can't imagine your dude lost on the merits?
To do this very, very questionable form of voting, which has been criticized by President Carter, by Secretary Baker, by most experts on election reform.
We're in a pandemic.
I think the logical conclusion is this is a common plan, a common scheme. It comes right directly from the Democrat Party, and it comes from the candidate. Clearly. That's the reason why Hillary Clinton said, don't concede, even if you're losing. That's the reason we had
because of the delay in counting and mail-in ballots that the legislatures controlled by the GOP guaranteed to slow the perception of the vote coming in to make it look like it was more weighted for Trump so that he could actually declare victory early.
Had a Freudian slip by the candidate.
It wasn't a Freudian slip. She was legitimately talking about the fact that Louis DeJoy was slowing down the fucking mail.
He said he had the best voter fraud team in the country.
Yes, to fight voter fraud.
That's the reason why he probably didn't have to go out and campaign.
Oh, gross.
He had to have known what they were going to do. This had to be
planned. Oh, God.
And in advance. I'm kind of checking, did they go, to the same contractor to get the corrals to put the Republicans in? And this is a disgraceful thing.
I don't know. Was it like, Woody from Toy Story kind of a corral? Or are we talking about like kids in cages, like leftover stuff from the border?
It was done in this country. Probably not much more disgraceful than the things these people did in office, which you didn't and don't bother to cover, and you conceal from the American people.
Oh, if only I knew. Tell us, Rudy. What was it? What was it? The protection of people with pre-existing conditions? Horrifying.
But we let this happen. We use largely a Venezuelan voting machine.
No, we don't. Dominion isn't related to Venezuela. It's separate. And the ESNF or ESNS company that Abbott and those guys all have a stake in, that the red states are all using, we're supposed to trust that more? Get out of here.
In essence, to count our vote. We let this happen, we're going to become Venezuela.
Yeah, totally. We're going to be eating plantains. Cinco de Mayo is going to be off the hook.
We cannot let this happen to us. We cannot
Mardi Gras.
Not allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people. They elected
That's no way to talk about the people right behind you.
Donald Trump. They didn't elect Joe Biden.
Yeah, they did. By the greatest margin in history.
Joe Biden is in the lead because of the fraudulent ballots, the illegal ballots that were produced and that were allowed to be used after the election was over.
No. The election is over when all the legal ballots are counted, not 8:30 on election night. You don't get to, if if their computers go down on the evening of the 3rd, everyone's vote who's counted after 8:30 on Tuesday night doesn't get their vote thrown out. That's the root argument that he's making here. Think about this. The election is over, quote unquote, to them on election night at 8:30. Any ballot after that doesn't count. That's it. Including the ones that would be for them. That's it. If they technically come in after that for any reason whatsoever, they go out. Even though we're in a pandemic and a lot of people voted by mail. And all those vote by mail laws have been around for a long time. And most of by the way, the extensions where they were like, we can accept ballots that come in, up to 10 days afterwards, was because of Louis DeJoy messing around with the post office. So they were dealing with that threat. Most of them came in within the time. That's the problem they have. What? Somebody said, why can Rudy talk so long about nonsense? He's being paid $20,000 a day.
Give us an opportunity to prove it in court.
And by the way, thank you guys for the bits and the cheers and all that kind of stuff. My normal software makes me aware of that stuff when it works, but it's a little off. So anyways, thank you.
And we will. Now I'm going to ask Sidney Powell to describe to you what we can describe about another totally outrageous situation.
Outrageous. Let's hear it.
I don't think most Americans know that our ballots get calculated, many of them outside the United States.
Dun, dun, dun. We don't have computers in the United States that can count numbers in order.
And are completely open to hacking, completely open to change, and it's being done.
So 2016 is still up for grabs, is what you're saying?
By a company that specializes
and he's got it made it to his collar.
in voter fraud.
Look, a left collar right there. There's a dot. Oh boy.
I'll let Sidney describe that to you.
Thank you, Rudy.
I'm going to need to see your manager.
What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through
Communist money? Communist money? Commie money. It's the worst kind of money. Nothing's more anti-capitalist than a communist capitalist and their money. Wait.
Venezuela, Cuba, and
Latvia, Tanzania.
likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States.
Yeah. Hydrate, Rudy.
The Dominion voting systems, the Smartmatic technology software, and the software that goes in other computerized voting systems here as well, not just Dominion, were created in Venezuela at the direction of Hugo Chavez to make sure he never lost an election after one constitutional referendum came out the way he did not want it to come out. We have one very strong witness who has explained how it all works.
So it's been going on for this long, but Trump won Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin last time. They haven't changed their voting system from last time. Did he take the bribe last time but then not take the bribe this time? I don't understand.
His affidavit is attached to the pleadings of Lynn Wood in the lawsuit he filed in Georgia.
Very exciting.
It is a stunning, detailed affidavit because
Horrifying.
he was with Hugo Chavez while he was being briefed on how it worked. He was with Hugo Chavez when he saw it operate to make sure the election came out his way.
Who did Chavez voted for Biden though, right? I mean, when he tested the machine.
That was the express purpose for creating this software. He has seen it operate, and as soon as he saw the multiple states shut down the voting on the night of the election, he knew the same thing was happening here, that was what had gone on.
Shut down the voting on it. What are you talking about? They continued to count through the night in all these states.
Now, the software itself was created with so many variables
By Tony Montana.
and so many back doors that can
Moon River.
be hooked up to the internet or a thumb drive stuck in it or whatever.
Moon River.
Or whatever.
But one of its most characteristic features is its ability to flip votes. It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a
Probably to add votes for Trump, you mean? You mean there was a blue tsunami and it actually benefited Trump, they just couldn't flip enough?
certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden.
Or Biden votes to Trump.
Which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system. And that's what...
Maybe it was the algorithm. But it could only go so far in the algorithm itself so that it is not, on a computerized level, it's not noticed. Has to stop itself so that it doesn't overreach.
That's what
And that's why he lost.
caused them to have to shut down in the states they shut down in. That's when they came in the back door with
Moon River.
all the mail-in ballots, many of which they had actually fabricated. Some were on pristine paper with identically matching perfect circle dots for Mr. Biden. Others were shoved in batches. They're always put in a certain number of batches, and people would rerun the same batch. This corresponds to our statistical evidence that shows incredible spikes in the vote counts at
For people showing up to actually vote this time?
particular times, and that corresponds to eyewitness testimony of numerous people who have come forward and said that they saw the ballots come in the back door at that time. Notably,
Moon River.
All these ballots coming in the back door.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
I'm just saying. It's questionable. The whole thing's questionable.
the Dominion executives are nowhere to be found now. They are moving their offices overnight to different places. Their office in Toronto was shared with one of the Soros entities.
Uh-oh. Super Jew.
One of the leaders of the Dominion project in overall is Lord Malloch Brown, Mr. Soros' number 2 person in the UK, and part of his organization. There are ties of the Dominion leadership to the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, God.
And to other...
Rudy's wiping the sweat off of his glasses with the rag he was wiping his face with.
known politicians in this country. Just to give you a brief description of how this worked, I'm going
Okay, let's do it. Let's hear it.
to quote from a letter that was written, and I will
Swear to God, this woman looks like a Martin Short character. I'm just saying.
read that to make sure I get the quotes right. This person was objecting to the United States acquisition of Sequoia voting systems by Smartmatic, a foreign-owned company. I believe
So they were buying the infrastructure, the software, the mechanics. What part of it? Did they buy the company and just own it as a whole subsidiary? Or did they buy the remnants of it when it shut down? They bought the remnants of it when it shut down.
I believe this transaction raises exactly the sort of foreign ownership issues that CFIUS is best positioned to examine for national security purposes.
And did they? And if they didn't, why did Donald Trump's administration not look at federal voting systems across the states for their... Oh, wait, the cybersecurity people did. And oh, wait, they actually said there was no issue.
It's undisputed that Smartmatic is foreign-owned and it has acquired Sequoia. They keep changing the names as they go along. Different times when a problem comes up, they just create another corporation and call it a different name.
I see. It's the business world.
But it was a voting machine company doing business in the United States. Sequoia voting machines were used to record over 125 million votes during
Fabulous.
the 2004 presidential election in the United States.
And?
Smartmatic now acknowledges that Antonio Mujica, a Venezuelan businessman, has controlling interest in Smartmatic, but the company has not revealed who all the Smartmatic owners are. According to the press, Smartmatic's owners are hidden through a web of offshore private entities.
No, according to the press, there's two main owners, and then they have some angel investors that make up 7% of the financial interest of the company. But that's just me Googling shit.
And that is, in fact, true. Smartmatic has been associated with the Venezuelan government led by Hugo Chavez, which is openly hostile to the United States, and of course, as we all know, communistic and really brutalizing its own people. The system
Communistic?
has been continued there by Mr. Maduro and ensured his election. Smartmatic.
Oh boy.
Its possible connection to the Venezuelan government poses a potential national security concern in the context of its acquisition of Sequoia, because electronic voting machines are susceptible to tampering, and insiders are in the best position to engage in such tampering. This letter.
Yes. Also, if you have a bank, managers and tellers are more apt to be the people to steal, and you might want to keep an eye on them, which is why we recommend cameras being placed inside, pointing at the teller's drawers, and then, of course, at the, and I mean that, and the managers go through a background check. Because, yes, the threat of a bank robbery is high, but obviously the chances of an inside job are actually technically higher. Therefore, it's important to take steps to guarantee that that is true. Now, does that mean all banks are suspect, and if you put your money in with a teller, they're going to steal it? Probably. I don't know. Do they have a Venezuelan-sounding name?
Letter expresses concern of the Chicago 2006 primary election.
Thanks,
And it
Sadie.
ends by saying the products and services that are of Venezuelan origin, and evaluate Smartmatic's ownership to determine who could have influence and control over these and other Sequoia products and services are important to the national security of the United States. This letter was...
Okay, so I hear some concerns. I hear some concerns that are also, I think mostly Democrats have been making this argument about paper trails and the like, and that's why in the states where they do, they actually have a printed version of the ballot that is separated aside from the counting that goes on digitally. But so in case you need to do an audit or any of that stuff.
Letter was written.
But I'm happy you guys are finally coming around on making sure we have a paper receipt for your ballot, and make sure that we shore up our election integrity. I'm glad you guys are finally coming along in this. It's odd that it happens only when you lose.
To Hank Paulson on October 6,
His name is Robert Paulson. Sorry.
2006 by Congresswoman Carolyn B. Maloney. Senators Klobuchar and Warren have raised these concerns as recently as December 2019. Why our government has not taken them seriously is beyond my comprehension, unless they have some of the three-letter agencies have used them themselves in other parts of the world.
Ooh, FBI, CIA, DNI. This shots fired. She's accusing the CIA and FBI of fucking with our election rolls, and because they don't like Trump.
We know that
she's one of the lawyers.
The technology was exported to affect an election in Argentina. That's it.
Oh, so this is about now we're getting into the Mother Jones article section of it.
submitted
I'm sorry, ma'am. Do you work for The Intercept, or you just pick Glenn Greenwald's outfits?
by our friend who wrote the affidavit about Hugo Chavez and his interest in Smartmatic.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Again,
Lyman.
in 2006,
Like Dan, and thank you for noticing the Fight Club reference.
Carolyn Maloney wrote the Honorable John Snow, the Secretary of the Treasury, about the issues.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Smartmatic's leadership, one of the Smartmatic patent holders, Eric Coomer, I believe his name is on the web as being recorded in a conversation with Antifa members saying that he had the election
We're going Project Veritas on this. Look at that.
rigged for Mr. Biden. Nothing to worry about here, and he was they were going to F Trump. His social media is filled with hatred for the president and for
So he's a man of character, is what you're saying.
the United States of America as a whole.
Or he just so why, if he hates America, why would he hate Trump? I mean, the man is upending all our democratic norms and scuttling everything. He's saddling the entire country with debt. I mean, he's basically the anti-American's wet dream.
As are the social media accounts of many other Smartmatic people. There has been widespread use of this. Dominion itself is utilized in 2,000 jurisdictions in 30 states. It has been certifiable in multiple states who realized all the problems that it had, including Texas.
Where I think it's the Secretary of State and the governor actually have financial interests in the voting system that was used in the state, but it was good because it kept their state from going purple.
Experts have described it across the board from a Princeton group of 3
By the way, I have to say I feel like I owe her a book report.
professors to experts that we have
Yes, she's allegedly an attorney.
talked to about its end user vulnerabilities. People can admittedly go in and change whatever they want. They can set the ratio of votes from one thing to another. They can say that a Biden vote counts as 1.25 and a Trump vote counts as 0.75. And those may be the numbers that were actually used here.
Yeah, just why not just make it up? Sure. Technically speaking, if I get into the code of anything, I can do it. It's the ability to do so that you have to put in question. If they're not doing it, basically you're just saying that it's Democrats in these cities that can't be trusted. They've got the keys to the machine. They're just going to flip them for Trump. Now they're going to do it in a way that apparently is so narrowly close in other, I don't know. Seriously.
It's not just the swing states that were affected. The algorithm was likely run across the country to affect the entire election.
Well, why wasn't it run last time? Same voting machines.
I said we only discovered it this year because of the overwhelming number
Because your dude lost, so you think it affects you?
of votes for
It's amazing. I only discovered sin and the idea of sin when I was struck by lightning. I didn't really give it much thought.
President Trump in the swing states that caused the machines to have to shut down for them to backfill for adding votes. We have evidence of different
Never happened.
numbers of votes being injected into the system, the same identical
She sounds very sure of herself.
unique 6-digit number.
Listen, none of you folks want to understand this thing. I'll have you know that the integrity of our election is falling apart right now. Oh my God, did Rudy just blow his nose and rub the boogers on his face? What are you talking about? Back up.
Because of the overwhelming number of votes for President Trump. It's this point that whatever end user vulnerabilities have described it across the board. Problem use of this. Dominion itself is utilized in 2,000 jurisdictions in 30 states.
Please don't tell me.
Certifiable in multiple
Now I'm watching
states.
Rudy like a
Realized
hawk.
all the problems that it had, including Texas. Experts have described it across the board from a Princeton group of 3 professors to experts that we have talked to about its end user vulnerabilities. People can admittedly go in and change whatever they want. They can set the ratio of votes from one thing to another. They can say,
Yeah. Well, that's actually great that you bring that up too. specifically because metadata. You can actually change the metadata on a photo. Most people don't know that, but you can actually go in and change it. You can change when the picture says it was taken in the metadata. Now, there's another copy of it elsewhere on the device it was taken or others. Anywhere it was stored, the metadata won't match up to the metadata you changed on that particular file. But if you only see that file, then you can change the metadata going forward. And if no one else has access to the metadata, then you can assume that a photograph that was taken days before it was actually taken or days after it was actually taken, as far as what you write in there. Okay. This is something that seems to slip the mind of Trump and Rudy Giuliani all the goddamn time when they post videos and photos. Like, they don't know people can actually check.
Say that a Biden vote counts as 1.25 and a Trump vote counts as 0.75. And those may be the numbers that were actually used here. It's not just the swing states that were...
For the sake of what? When you audit it, it would show up by volume. You would count the paper ones that are sitting there, and you would compare it to what the computer said. It wouldn't matter if you made it 1.25 and 0.75, the stack of paper that was there wouldn't match that. You'd have to throw out precisely that algorithmical difference. Jesus Christ.
That were affected, the algorithm was likely run across the country.
Sure, why not? Just say so.
To affect the entire election. Like I said, we only discovered it this year because of the overwhelming number of votes for President Trump in the swing states that caused the machines to have to shut down for them to backfill for adding votes. We have evidence of different numbers of votes being injected into the system, the same identical, unique 6-digit number multiple times in at least 2 states that we've analyzed so far, and I'm talking about like 341,542 votes for Biden and 100,012 for Trump. There's no
100,012 for Trump. I see.
Explanation, no logical explanation for the same numbers being injected 20 minutes apart into the machine. The software manual itself, you can download it from the internet, and I would encourage you all to read it because
it's good reading.
It specifically advertises some of these things as features of the system. Why it was ever allowed in...
Really? You should try Dominion's voting machines. One of the best things about them is they're completely unfucking trustworthy. You can swap out whatever you want. I mean, anybody with a key card, even if they haven't worked for 10 years for the company, can roll in there and change the values. As a matter of fact, you can make one person count as 3/5 of a person. It's fantastic. It's our most constitutional ballot finding system ever.
Into this country is beyond my comprehension. And
that's true of a lot of things, to be fair.
Why nobody has dealt with it is absolutely appalling. The machines were easily accessible to hackers. There's a video on the net that it will explain to you how a kid with a cell phone can hack one of these voting machines.
So you're saying the mistake the Trump campaign made was not adding enough votes?
There's been no oversight of Dominion or its software. Workers in each county were trained by Dominion, but there's no evidence of any monitoring otherwise. We have testimony of different workers admitting that they were trained how to dispose of Trump votes and add to Biden votes. The software has a feature pursuant to which you can drag and drop any number of batches of votes to the candidate of your choice or simply throw them away. So we have mathematical evidence in a number of states of massive quantities of Trump votes being trashed. Just simply put it in the trash like you would on your computer with any file.
You mean so some Trump kid with a cell phone tried to add a bunch of fake votes and they found them and threw them out?
And Biden votes being injected. That's addition to the flipping. I mean, it really happens in 2 ways. There's an algorithm that runs that automatically flips all the votes, and then each...
Hold on. Now my other headphones are dying. Do I have not... Can any of these last? Can I... For God's sake, I know this is a long one. I know I'm losing you. But it's a little silly at this point. I'm going to... literally, 1 second. Hold on. This is absurd. This kids today, I swear. Why is this not doing such a thing? Wonderful. Got to, let's see, throw this in here, turn this guy on, rotate this out. Put these headphones, I don't know if I'll be able to even hear these on this. It's such a weird thing. Like, the batteries around here, we must have been struck by lightning. I have no idea what this is going on. Let's see, can I hear this?
Each operator.
Nope, hold on. So much going on, it's just crazy. Whoops. I'm definitely overtaxing my computer today. I'll add this one. There we go. Hopefully this will do it. Let's see.
Has the ability to go in, override settings. They can ignore a signature. They can ignore the top line of the ballot. They can go down ballot and select who they want to.
Yes, if you code something, you can do anything to anything. It's the access to that code part that would concern people security-wise. And how is this not an argument that you assholes tried this and failed? Seriously, it looks like she's like, we tried to do this, and somehow, I don't know how we do it, but somebody else is smarter than us could have done this.
To change the results for Mr.
Dr. Huffar.
Gentleman who founded Smartmatic. There's video of him on the internet explaining that, yes, at least one occasion, he admits they changed 1 million votes with no problem.
You mean the part where they're like, yeah, we were working on it earlier and we were trying to work up the security thing, so we have hacker conferences where people try to break into it and they were able to do this, so we had to fix some shit. You mean that part? You mean that kind of admission? Now, honest to God, how do I know someone isn't in your car right now taking a shit? Honestly. Judging from your outfit and what I can gather from your personality, how do I know you didn't leave your car keys near someone who has a tendency to take a shit in any car they can find? While we're just musing.
Many of the jurisdictions that have had this problem might not have known of the issues, but
Jesus Christ, Rudy. Touch every orifice you have. Why don't you?
many did. And I think a full-scale criminal investigation needs to be undertaken immediately by the
Agreed. First, let's start with that outfit.
Department of Justice and by every state's equivalent, Attorney General's office or state investigatory unit, because
Where is Bill Barr?
there's evidence of different benefits being provided to the people who spent $100 million of taxpayer money at the last minute for their state to get the Dominion voting systems put in time for this election in different ways. There's one person that a lawyer told me got, quote, election insurance, meaning that he would be able to
Yeah, well, they told you. That's good enough for me.
make sure he was elected. I'm sure they explained that feature in detail to many people who expressed interest in putting this voting system in.
Honest to God, this is like a live reading of a QAnon Facebook group. I heard this one person, and he said that if you wanted to, it would be so easy. Whatever. All you need, look, if you get 2 nickels and a AA battery, there's almost, okay, you can make energy from water, okay? Listen here. That's what we're watching.
Certification of the Dominion system in 2019, but there are no doubt issues with the software that Texas did use, unbeknownst to Texas, I would imagine, since they went to great trouble to examine the Dominion systems and reject them. But others.
But theirs failed? Okay, so, I'm sorry, so the states that went for Trump are suspect.
Software, in the source code that does the alterations is embedded, we have been told, in the source code all across the country.
Rudy.
The voting machine.
Rudy just wiped his snot on his face again.
There's no doubt it has been used to alter elections in other countries. We know specifically that Venezuela exported it for that purpose to Argentina and other Latin American companies to make sure that the corrupt rulers who were willing to pay the highest price for being in office were allowed to rig their elections.
So, wait. So you're just saying Trump wasn't, he didn't pay the highest price. He got outbid? Is that the argument now?
This is stunning.
By Joe Biden, who won the primaries with no money?
Heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic acts I can even imagine for people in
You don't talk about them. They're standing right behind you.
this country to have participated in any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level.
American patriots. And there it is. The other side that voted for the other guy are not patriots. And we're acquiescing to cheating and thievery because her guy fucking lost. And that means we're not patriots. We stood in line, we voted, we registered other people, we convinced people to, who may not regularly vote to get out there and vote. Yeah, but the patriots are the ones that are upset.
To
the dude behind you just argued for throwing out 100,000 patriotic votes simply because of he believes a technicality exists that doesn't. Fuck you.
highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are
To the 1820s?
not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump.
You put your toys back in the box, or I'm never telling your mother you're over here. And
won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are
he won by a landslide.
going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
I am not gonna stand here and look at your ass faces anymore.
How come you're not suing in the Wisconsin counties that use this? Why are you only doing a recount?
And excuse me, there were
Yeah, somebody was like, "Are they done?" Because they didn't. You didn't. You're supposed to introduce her, by the way, and you didn't. So they're getting to the, hey, do you mind if we ask a question?
we're not out to the questions at this point. So excuse me, we're not at the questions at this
Excuse me, we're not asking questions at this point. People.
point. My name is Jenna Ellis, and I'm the senior
Hi, Jenna.
legal advisor to the Trump campaign, and I'd like to just
She's the senior legal advisor to the Trump campaign.
explain now where we've been and where we're at.
Okay. She's been to Kohl's, and Rudy's been in a hotel room with a woman he thought was 15 years old. And this dude over here, I think, was just auditioning to be the cowardly sheriff in an old Western. Pretty much. Are we up to speed? And you were on the Real Housewives of El Paso until they had to shut down production because of COVID.
At and what you can expect from this process. So what
I expect a lot of skullduggery and bullshit.
you have heard, I'm sure, in the fake newspapers tomorrow will be one of two things.
Oh, wait, the thing you will have heard in the fake news thing tomorrow. Sorry, I just had a Back to the Future moment.
Either
What?
there was not sufficient evidence that we've presented, or we spoke too long. Okay.
No. There was not any evidence. All caps. Any evidence. Any evidence. Any evidence. And I think you spoke just long enough, personally.
Okay, so what you've heard now is basically an opening statement.
Okay, so our opening statement includes two people and a lot of shit talking. Think of this as the preamble, not the Constitution. We'll let other people work that out later.
Is what you can expect
Basically, if I designed the cover, I wrote the book.
to see when we get to court to actually have a full trial on the merits, to actually
You've had 30, and one ruling allowed you to go to be 6 feet away from people and breathe on them.
Actually show this evidence in court and prove our case. This is not a Law and Order episode where everything is neatly wrapped up in 60 minutes. For those of you who...
She's just going to name drop every show she's that's been referenced in pop culture. Oh, you know, these night writers have been working very hard on, you know...
are here in this room or have maybe tuned out in other networks. Clearly, you've never been court reporters.
Okay, so you don't even know what you're missing.
Trials take time. Putting on evidence takes time. This is...
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. And these are cases, by the way, you were intending to bring all along.
Basically an opening statement so the American people can understand what the networks have been hiding. And
it's not an opening statement. Rudy's been making this same statement for 2 weeks. How many openings are you going to have? You don't have to close your argument, but I would like to see the middle part.
And what they refuse to cover, because all of your fake news
Fake news, patriots.
headlines are dancing around the merits of this case and are trying to delegitimize what we are doing.
Rudy was just dancing around the merits of this case. Piss off.
Here. Let me be very clear that our objective
Well, don't start now.
is to make sure to preserve and protect election integrity. President Trump has been saying from day one that
Mexican sends rapists and drug dealers, and there's... All right.
this is about maintaining
That's just what I remember from day one.
free and fair elections in this country. It is not about overturning an outcome. It is about making sure...
He just said it was about overturning an outcome. Rudy, she just said this is about overturning... All right.
that election integrity is preserved, and every American should want that. If every American is not on board with that, you have to ask yourself why. And if your fake news network is not covering this or allowing you to cover it fairly...
By the way, this fake news network covered it fairly and completely and totally. So fuck off with that nonsense.
and accurately, you should ask yourself why. This is absolutely a legitimate...
Oh, I can tell him, because as someone who has actually covered this bullshit and has listened to Rudy's argument multiple times and watched 10 videos on the Hunter Biden laptop and all of his videos on the election since he's put them out, I can answer, even though I don't have an arm past my forearm, I know there's nothing there. It's amazing. It's like a magic trick. I can tell you why why the news isn't putting this stuff out. Because it's bullshit, and if they put it out there, they further your bullshit and give it the illusion of credibility, and they don't want to give something that's bullshit the illusion of credibility, and so they wait till you go through the courts, so the judge, who gets to look at not only the evidence you're presenting to the public, but the evidence you present in chambers and behind the scenes and stuff that you want to keep hidden from the public for the safety of the people who filed the affidavits and the election integrity officials who want to maintain their jobs and act as whistleblowers. The judge gets to see all that shit. And when the judge rules on it, then the news reports on it, and what they're reporting is 30-1.
Legal basis, we have been asked to provide an entire case that
Yes, you have. You're making cases. Present them.
Generally would take years in civil litigation. I've been a prosecutor. I have tried cases with far simpler facts.
So I should be concerned that there are murderers running amok right now because you oversaw them and you were incapable of securing a conviction because it was too complicated?
Thing happened in a matter of minutes, and it still takes days. And we go through a jury process. This is the court of public opinion right now. We are not...
So you don't have to actually be honest, is what you're saying. You don't have to present real evidence. You don't actually have to say what you have, what's genuine, what's been agreed on. You don't even actually have to tell the truth at all. That's the argument she's making.
We're not trying our case in the court of public opinion, because if we were...
Yes, you are. That's exactly why you're doing this. because in the real court, it's being thrown out on its ass. They failed 29 times. The other one was just, you can move your people just, from 20 feet away to 6 feet away after the other people have left, which was already the law. Fine, go ahead. That was it. The other 29 thrown out, and embarrassingly so. So of course you're trying this in the court of public opinion. This is a show for Trump. This isn't even for us.
Or we would get unbiased jurors. I would strike 99% of you from the jury, and I would be allowed to because of the...
Yeah, and I would strike everything that you had presented as evidence today, and I would be allowed to as either hearsay or highly prejudicial. How about that?
The fake news coverage you provide. You are not unbiased jurors. And until you step out of your...
They showed up for your shit. You're not yelling at the press in general. Fuck off. She's literally castigating the people in the room who came out for this stuff. They all sat there and listened to this bullshit. She's not even addressing the camera and going, I would like to speak to all the press that did not show up today. Unlike, college radio and all the Sinclair Broadcasting and the people from OAN. I want to talk to the people, who are watching this later and laughing, who work for the actual news agencies. You should have been here. Like, she's not even doing that. She's shit-talking the people for not listening and not showing up that are fucking sitting right in front of her. Seriously. They're there. They're listening to you. They're taking notes. They have questions. What the fuck?
Your role as a journalist and actually go into a courtroom and you are a judge on a bench that has sworn an oath to be unbiased in our separation of powers, then your opinion does not matter. The facts matter.
Okay, sorry, good. All right, so thanks. All right. Unless you're a judge, your opinion of their legal briefs and their accusations and their affidavits has no meaning whatsoever. You're just a peon. You're a pathetic weakling you have no intellectual power, no validity. Only judges are truly capable of passing judgment, as it were, on the quality of their case. And therefore, the 29 situations where the judges have told them to go piss up a rope, apparently, well, I guess they're not to be listened to either.
The truth matters. And if you are fair reporters, you will cover that fairly and appropriately. And
they did. They're covering it fairly. 30 of your cases thrown out. One marginal technicality that nobody gave a fuck about. Literally, the judge going, fine. Yeah, nobody cares. Any objection from the defense? No, we don't care. That was never our problem in the first place. We don't even know what they're yelling about. Yeah, okay, fine. Jesus Christ.
And you will allow coverage of our media team here and our legal...
Coverage of our media team, because we are not trying this in the court of public opinion. But since I brought it up, fuck off.
That is absolutely shocking that all you cover are around the margins, and I've seen all of you taking pictures right now.
Okay, I saw you all taking pictures of Rudy's oily sweat. I saw it.
And I can anticipate what your headlines are going to be.
Can you now? Say it. Turn to Rudy and tell him what you think it's going to be.
If you are not willing...
The oily bird gets whined. What?
To talk about the evidence that has been presented, then that is absolutely unacceptable for journalistic standards. This is an opening statement. So
you're not producing evidence, but it's up to the journalists to cover for you?
This is something where we have told you what the evidence will show, and we have given you a brief description. That happens in a courtroom all the time.
It wasn't brief. It was a long time. It's like an hour.
Where that's not the fact-finding process, that is just an overview. That is what we have given you today because the American people deserve to know what we have uncovered in the last couple of weeks. Remember, this is such a short time frame.
It so is. It so is. And you don't, I mean, you called this, and you can present anything you want, but you decided to have Rudy and the QAmoron ramble for an hour because that's your way of getting the message out to the people because the fake news won't tell us the truth.
And this is an elite strike force team that is...
Power Rangers! I'm Rudy Giuliani. I'm Leopard Skin Lady. Zap! Pick up your room. I'm weird cowboy guy who sells stuff. Elite Strike Force? Christ. That's what it is. She's not wearing leopard skin. That's desert camo. I'm sorry. My mistake. Elite Strike Force assembling. Trump, Elite Strike Force. Jesus Christ. If this is the kind of team he puts together for Space Force, we're all going to be killed by satellites falling on us.
That is working on...
Elite Strike Force. Really? Really? Really?
We have uncovered an overview. That is what we have given you today because the American people deserve to know what we have uncovered in the last couple of weeks. Remember, this is such a short time frame. And this is an elite strike force team that is working on behalf of the president and the campaign.
Oh, it's an elite strike force team. Never mind the fact that the prestigious lawyers who were running things quit or were fired by Trump or quit after Trump put Rudy in charge, because nothing says elite strike force like he's your new boss. I quit.
To make sure that our
elite strike force. This is like it. Okay, this is a. I can't. This is like the elite strike force meets Harper Valley PTA.
Our Constitution is protected. We are a nation of rules, not a nation of rulers.
Look out. The zing! Count that, bitches. Now let's get back to installing a dictator.
There is not someone that just gets to pick who the next president is outside the will of the American people. And
then why is the president inviting the legislators from Michigan to come to the White House to talk them into creating a team of faithless electors to subvert the will of the people and put him in office? What the fuck are you talking about? Delete strike force.
And that is our task, because when we talk about voter fraud, it's actually election official fraud. That cannot stand. The Constitution requires that the state legislatures are the ones that make election law. It still has to go.
Okay, we're going to protect the voter by making sure that the legislature gets to scuttle theirs.
By the U.S. Constitution. But what has happened in this case is that state and local level officials, and all the way up, have changed the rules. That's what the Democrats do.
During a pandemic, to allow more people to vote because they didn't want to die by standing in line or being around a bunch of maggots and Trumpkins who don't believe in mask wearing? You mean like that? We had a bunch of people sitting on the beach because someone changed the rules about jumping ship just because it was sinking. And now all these people have managed to escape. And I think it's unfair to those of us that torpedoed the boat.
To do. If they don't like the rules, they change them. And they change them at the last minute. They manipulate them.
Did they change them at the last minute, or are you changing them at the last minute? I don't know. I'm starting to think logically.
They want to tear down our American system. Our founders were so brilliant that they anticipated this, that there would be corruption, there would be foreign...
They anticipated electronic voting machines made in Venezuela that bounce their votes through Barcelona.
influence, there would be attempts to manipulate the outcome of the election, especially with who they called our chief magistrate. I would encourage all of you to go home and actually read Alexander Hamilton's Federalist 68.
Oh, she's citing the Federalist Papers.
And see what he described as an advocacy position to adopt and ratify the Electoral College.
She's starting to lose the thought. Okay, adopt and ratify the Electoral College, superseding the will of the individual voter, and that the magistrate has the ability to establish an electoral. What are you saying?
And the process by which we select our president. We select our president through the Electoral College not because it disenfranchises voters.
We select. We don't elect. Okay? And that's the case that we're making today. Seriously. This is it. This is it. This is 100% her final argument. This is her summation, Your Honor. We don't elect a president. We select a president. And by we, I mean a ruling class of electors put in place by legislatures that apparently are selected via false voting systems.
But because it is a security mechanism for exactly the type of corruption that we are uncovering. And every American should be grateful and thankful that our founders had the foresight to put in those protections and provisions to make sure that your legitimate legal vote is not.
Yeah, it's folks, it's all about your legitimate legal vote, that we want the Pennsylvania legislature to put in electors that will go against the tallied votes and the will of the people to give the Electoral College votes to the president.
Not disenfranchised. That
You're not being disenfranchised by the president manipulating the Electoral College to his benefit. It's really for your own good, honestly. We just really think it would be better. Your father and I have talked. We think that you should maybe think about moving out into the garage.
That is what we are advocating for. We want to make sure to protect election integrity, and your president, President Trump, we are so proud that he is in this fight because
that's why he's in this fight.
He understands that when he swore his oath of office, he swore an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. That is what he is doing. And that is what we are doing. We are confident that through this multiple pathway to victory.
Ew. Rudy just wiped his nose and he's about to wipe the same rag across his eyes. What the fuck? This is the elite strike force team?
And that
is what shit is going on? This is an elite strike force. Watch what the commander of the elite strike force does.
We are confident that through this multiple pathway to victory, we will get to the actual outcome that the evidence
fucking hell
shows. But this is not about overturning an election on our part.
Yeah, it is. Rudy said it was.
It's about making sure that we protect and preserve free and fair elections for all future American elections. If the United States caves to corruption or this type of election integrity disaster,
don't even.
Then no election will be secure from
never. If Donald Trump is not reelected, then no election ever counts.
Here on out.
It is not possible that he lost. It simply is not.
And we all need to be keenly aware of that. We are the representatives here that are standing in this gap and defending President Trump. And
we will hold this field. We will hold this line.
Defending you, the American people, at the end of the day. This is...
Isn't it really? I mean, she really is there for us, guys. Honestly, she is the next Abraham Lincoln.
It is ultimately about the United States of America. And we want to make sure to protect and defend that. And as my colleagues have said, we will not back down.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. What's he going to do next? Is he just going to wipe that rag on her?
We won't be intimidated. President Trump will not be intimidated. You, the American people, should not be intimidated. You, the...
I am not intimidated by the elite strike force. Just saying for the record. I'm I'm fundamentally not intimidated by anything that I have seen here today. As a matter of fact, I feel a lot better about our system. That it's managing to withstand attacks very well.
You, the press, should cover this fairly and should know that this matters to election integrity. And
hey, you are representing the president of the United States in legal battles, and therefore it reaches that level of importance. I take it about as seriously as pictures of Ronald Reagan pretending to operate a chainsaw and chop down a tree. I guess there's something to be worried about if he accidentally cut himself, but I'm not too overwhelmed by it. But, it is the president. He was the president during the Cold War, and it mattered at the time. So I'm paying attention. I've listened to this whole fucking thing. What's your problem?
And it matters to the future of our nation.
It so does. Guys, it so does.
So we have given you an overview, but recognize this is not a court of law. We will get there, and we have time. And
you've gotten there. What do you mean you have time? You've gotten there.
We have constitutional provisions that will step in when we show the corruption and the irredeemably challenged and overturned votes.
What? I thought you said this wasn't about overturning an election. You just specifically said this isn't about overturning an election.
That are absolutely corrupt in all of these counties. It is.
Well, again, this goes to like the empty cupboards. Didn't you have time to deal with this before a frigging election?
Irredeemably.
Again, Trump, the greatest leader man has ever known, incapable of mistakes, the greatest memory, the best words, the best people. He knows everyone. He can see an attack coming in a way that the old-fashioned politicians are just incapable of seeing. And yet, it never occurred to him at the beginning of a pandemic to shore up mail-in voting because the pandemic was wrong. Of course, 15 cases and it'll all be over soon.
Compromised. We will
who actually released the Kraken? Just for the record.
Show that, but you have to give us that opportunity. This has been.
We gave you an opportunity. That's what this is. Asshole, this is your opportunity. It was your idea to put Rudy on first, followed by, Betty Rubble.
Just our opening statement, and we have an opportunity to get there, and we have time, and we will do that. This is the United States of America, and we stand proudly for...
Wait. This is the... Oh, that's what the flags are. I'm sorry. Okay. I was just... I was confused. I didn't know where they were for a second. I thought they were in Venezuela.
President Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
One more point? You wanted to say something because you were pinching me?
The world is watching this.
Yes, they are.
I have gotten multiple emails from people in other countries who watch.
Do you trust where they came from? Wait a minute. Excuse me. But one of the point people on Trump's team fighting the fake news and the anti-American Democratic establishment and the Dominion voting machines who are trying to scuttle this election for Donald John Trump, one of the people on his point team is in contact with foreign entities. No wonder the lawsuit never had a chance, never got off the ground.
Watch the same pattern happen there. We have witness testimony that the same things were done in those countries as this.
What countries would those be?
Was exported from Venezuela and by Maduro and by Mr. Chavez and by Cuba, and of course we know China.
By Cuba.
China also has a substantial presence in Venezuela and substantial interest in making sure that President Trump does not continue in office. This is the consummate foreign interference in our election in the most...
You mean the people contacting you to egg you on and try to undermine people's belief in our voting system? You mean that kind of messing around? You mean the people who are sending you emails going, oh yes, absolutely, you're right, girl. You're right. Fight the good fight, girl. That's right. Everything you're saying is right. You're so right. That happened here. Oh my God, it happened here. Yeah, you should go out. Please, yes, fight. Keep fighting. It's not because I want to undermine people's belief in the American democratic system or the voting system. It's because I really believe in you. And you're absolutely right.
Most criminal way you can possibly imagine.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I've seen Mindhunter. I think we can all imagine some massive criminality. Let's all imagine Scarface for a moment. Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually.
It must be shut down. We know, for example, that one of the Dominion's highest level employees or officers went to Detroit himself to man.
Oh my God! He went to so the company sells voting machines to major metropolitan areas to the tune of millions of dollars, and you're telling me that vice presidents and technicians from that company go to those cities and work with those cities for the implementation of those? Next thing you'll tell me is that Xerox has regional reps.
And the Detroit Operations Center, where he could watch the votes coming in real time.
Did my mic die? Are we okay? Right.
And decide what file folder in the system to put those votes into. That's why you see massive spikes after hours when people were told that all the votes were in and all the votes.
No one was told all the votes were in. Honest to God, I can't do anything if this is about your perception of reality. No one thinks that the mail-in voting this time around was done at midnight on Tuesday night, when in some cases 40 to 60% of the electorate was mailing in their ballots.
All the votes were counted. Many Dominion employees have already reached out to us to tell us the truth. They are Americans who want to ensure election integrity like we do. I would encourage every Dominion or Smartmatic employee who is fed up with the corruption in this country to come forward as soon as possible, because...
Yeah, but they can't, because they were put there to add votes to Trump's side, to make it look closer so you guys could make your case. I mean, arguably, this sounds like a meeting of people who... It's like a bad Yelp review for Dominion. Look, we paid off Dominion. They were supposed to get us within striking distance, but not overtake it. And then we didn't get all the votes we wanted. We want our money back.
Because these are serious federal offenses that I am confident the Department of Justice will be in pursuit of in very...
Are you really? You're confident about Bill Barr doing that? Because he's definitely one of Trump's favorite fart sniffers, but somehow he's just not buying this one.
Short order if they are not already.
And another thing, if you don't have a key fob, you can't come into the pool.
All right. A few questions?
Yeah.
This could be good.
Mayor Giuliani, this sort of reminds of 30 years ago.
Oh, and I thought he'd cleared it up.
They had federal judges doing consent decrees over elections. So you got
Jesus, I literally thought the dripping part was from earlier.
a federal judge overseeing the election. This is old Chicago days.
And he misses it again. How do you do that? How do you do that? Look, if you're making outlandish claims,